That breaking news about Vladimir Putin. U.S. intelligence officials tell ABC News that the Russian president was directly involved in that hacking scandal, interfering in America's election.
And we begin tonight with President Obama making it clear who he believes was behind the Russian hacking. He said not much happens in Russia without Vladimir Putin. And tonight, ABC News confirming the FBI now agrees with the CIA. Vladimir Putin directed it. And it began with Putin's concern over Hillary Clinton becoming president.
House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi has told CNN that she has been told that it's the Russians who are responsible.
This is an electronic Watergate. This is an electronic Watergate.
What's also true, and this goes to something that we discussed in the briefing on Monday, there's ample evidence that was known long before the election, and even in most cases long before October, about the Trump campaign in Russia. Everything from the Republican nominee himself calling on Russia to hack his opponent.
What do you make of the use of Russia in this election, including Russia being accused and suspected of hacking in to the American political system and potentially subverting the election process in the United States?
I think it's a great fiction, and it serves a purpose to disguise what's really going on. The intelligence experts that I've talked to have indicated to me that it's probably an inside job.
Democrats are outraged Donald Trump won the election. They tried to get a recount and failed. Now they'll move to create a commission to decide if Russia had something to do with Trump's win.
We should just clarify that the president earlier this week instructed the intelligence community to conduct a full review of the pattern of malicious cyber activity related to our presidential election cycle. So he's requested this report be completed and submitted to him before the end of his term.
Lindsey Graham, who I don't agree with on many issues, over there on the Senate side and has asked for an investigation, and Marco Rubio has asked for, has said that basically we need to be looking into this. So what we're trying to do, what we're trying to do, Joe, is we're trying to make this truly a bipartisan effort, because this is bigger than this election. This is bigger than Trump. This is about saving and preserving our democracy. And so
the CIA and the FBI say they have evidence, but they won't make it public. While the Office of Director of National Intelligence said it doesn't dispute the CIA's finding, it hasn't endorsed the assessment because of the lack of conclusive evidence.
Let me ask you about that, because you're a ranking member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Did you hear from intelligence sources that Russia's intent was to put Donald Trump in the White House?
I haven't heard from intelligence sources. I only know what I'm reading in the newspapers. The intelligence sources have not contacted the members of Congress.
From the start, the media claimed Putin and the Russians are responsible. It has failed to point out the CIA has specialized in meddling in foreign elections and has orchestrated coups and assassinations of political leaders. The media will speculate on a possible Russian plot, but will never consider the possibility the NSA or CIA might have something to do with influencing the election. The CIA has controlled the establishment media since the 1950s with its Operation Mockingbird.
We have a lot of information about the CIA. We have a certain amount of information about the FBI, a certain amount about military intelligence. And the reason for this is because there were those congressional investigations that I mentioned before. There have been reports published, particularly from the Church Committee in the late 70s, where they published volume after volume describing the extent of media operations by the CIA and other agencies.
NSA whistleblower William Binney believes the NSA is responsible for releasing information to WikiLeaks, not the Russians. Binney is a former high-placed intelligence official. He told the Aaron Klein radio program in August a disgruntled U.S. intelligence worker is responsible for the hack.
The NSA has the technical capability to go back and to trace it seems, this data for essentially where the hack came from. Is this correct? Does the NSA have this capability to basically find out exactly who hacked the DNC?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that's why I was talking about it. And the network log, it tells you what. See, every time if you're on a network, if you click the mouse key or type in some instructions and hit the carriage return, that sends a line of code down the network. Well, that gets logged and recorded in the network log as to who it's coming from, where it's going to, and then in instructions, of course, that send down to download things or read things that carries the return address. So all those addresses and exchanges are in the network log, and that's what Snowden's talking about. You can go into that log and see every transaction, and you could easily do that through that network log, and that's what these people who have supposedly looked for the attacks on the DNC were supposed to do. But I guess they did something and said that here was this known hack from Russian hackers. But I mean, there are other kinds of hackers. The governments would do it, like for example, if we were to do it with the Iranians, we'd do something that was totally different, like the Stuxnet thing, where you couldn't trace it back to the U.S. government. So I assume that the Russian government, if they were going to do something like that, they would do something different than a known attack. I mean, the known attack would get back to them directly, and that's I guess, what the DNC is trying to infer.
He said the motivation had to do with Hillary Clinton's disregard for national security secrets. He also said the NSA has all of Clinton's deleted emails.
Bill, when you have heard a number of Democrats, including Hillary Clinton, say, well, it's the Russians because they love Trump, what's your observation?
Well, I guess the first thing I would look at and think about is the attack. It's a well-known attack, and so therefore a lot of people know it. So the whole idea is you need to prove who it is that did it. Rather than, I know that a lot of people in our government like to make the Russians enemies, so if you use them as the primary culprit, then it diverts attention from the basic issues.
Right. You say there's a possibility that the NSA was the one who hacked the DNC and somehow gave it to Julian Assange?
Well, that's the whole point. I guess there is a possibility of that simply because they've got the emails. They collect them through the Fairview program, which has almost 100 taps on the fiber network inside the U.S. distributed with the population. They collect content and metadata at the same time. So it's all there, and they have it already available. And FBI, by the way, has direct access to those databases. So without oversight, there's no oversight of that.
In 2005, it was revealed the NSA was conducting widespread illegal and unconstitutional electronic surveillance on the American people. Evidence of the NSA program was provided by Mark Klein, a former AT&T technician. Klein's undisputed evidence shows the telecom installed a fiber optic splitter at its facility in San Francisco and vacuumed up data and passed it on to the NSA.
Mark Klein, in his declarations in the court about the AT&T facility in San Francisco, documented the NSA room inside that AT&T facility where they had NARIS devices to collect data off the fiber optic lines inside the United States. So that's kind of a powerful device that would collect everything that was being sent. It could collect on the order of over 100 billion 1,000 character emails a day. One device. So that gives you an idea of the magnitude of the kind of collection that's going on.
In 2013, secret government documents revealed the government was illegally collecting the data of U.S. citizens under the Patriot Act. It launched PRISM in 2007, a secret program that collects data from more than 9 internet companies. PRISM began after the passage of the Protect America Act, a Bush administration initiative that allowed the NSA to violate the Fourth Amendment.
When it comes to telephone calls, nobody is listening to your telephone calls. That's not what this program's about. As was indicated, what the intelligence community is doing is looking at phone numbers and durations of calls. They are not looking at people's names, and they're not looking at content. But by sifting through this so-called metadata, they may identify potential leads with respect to folks who might engage in terrorism.
In addition to PRISM, the NSA and its international and domestic partners have used a number of specialized systems to conduct illegal surveillance, including Echelon, Carnivore, X, Keyscore, Mystic, Stingray, and others. It has worked with Britain, Germany, Sweden, Australia, France, and other countries, and has collaborated with the CIA to spy on millions of people. The NSA, the national security state, and its partners have at their disposal the technology to influence elections, not by changing votes, but by using psychological operations and propaganda. The Clinton email scandal is an engineered psyop. It has two objectives. One, to make sure Hillary Clinton is not elected, and two, to demonize Russia. The military-industrial complex requires an endless array of conflicts in order to make obscene profit, and the political class is playing its role by targeting Russia for the sake of a new Cold War.
It is a phrase that recalls decades-old fears of nuclear war and mutually assured destruction. But tensions between Russia and the United States are now so great that some argue we are living in a new Cold War, only one more dangerous than before. Escalating rhetoric in recent days over Syria has brought relations to a new low, with the U.S. ending peace talks with Russia and calling for Moscow to be investigated for war crimes. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov says aggressive Russophobia now lies at the heart of U.S. policy towards Russia. It is not just a rhetorical Russophobia, but aggressive steps that really hurt our national interests and pose a threat to our security.
I recently issued my posture statement for the Defense Department for fiscal year 2017, the first to describe how we're approaching 5 strategic challenges: Russia, China, North Korea, Iran, and terrorism.
It became obvious by summer Donald Trump would win, despite the best efforts of the corporate media to make sure he didn't. The NSA and the international intelligence complex have tools at their disposal capable of not only determining election outcomes, but surveilling billions of people. The ruling elite will do what it takes to maintain their hold on political and economic power. The NSA surveillance grid gives the elite the ability to surveil political leaders and activists, and also allows them to manufacture scandals to discredit those who have fallen out of favor, as Clinton apparently has. Not long ago, the state relied on human intelligence, spies, and informants. The internet and the telecommunications networks will now allow authoritarian control freaks to conduct the sort of surveillance the Stasi, Nazi Germany, and Stalin's Russia only dreamed of.